think the risk of Spanish banks going back to those flexible practices is very minimal, I would say. I mean, it's very difficult to predict the future and to look into the crystal ball, and history tends to repeat itself. So you would think that perhaps banks would go back to those practices as competition stiffens. But I think there are a number of reasons why this will not happen. First of all, I mean, the number of players in the banking industry in Spain has shrunk very significantly from the 40+ banks that you had in the sort of last decade, 2006, 2007, and the 12 or so who now run the Spanish industry. So I think, that shrinkage of itself means that, the surviving banks, will be much more averse, to doing this sort of practices, because they've learned it the hard way. It's cost their balance sheets massively, and the share price has gone down very significantly. So I think, they will think it twice before going back into those practices. Reason number one, therefore, the number of players. But then also the quality of those players, because if you think of the marginal players like the savings banks, those were typically institutions operating in only one region and with only one product, namely mortgage lending. So they didn't have the ability to withstand competition in the same way that the bigger players did, with a much wider array of banking products. And therefore, their only thing they could do is to be very aggressive and to go also into sort of owning land and all those practices and financing 100% of those loans, and that led to the very serious consequences that we saw afterwards. So therefore, both the number of players and because the surviving players are the stronger ones, I think those are the reasons why it's very unlikely that you will see those practices again, in my view.